Hey everyone, have you ever felt afraid of everything? Afraid to fail, to speak, to try, to live? This is the story of a man who lost everything, and through that loss discovered the one thing that fear could never touch, his strength. Stay with me. This story might just be the mirror your heart's been needing. He always followed the rules. He always played it safe. Since he was a child, they told him not to stand out, not to take risks, not to make noise. Be careful. Don't be a problem. Stay in your place. And he did. He was never the smartest, but he was the most obedient. Quiet in class, never complained, always did his homework. He was good, but not happy. Calm, but not free. By the age of 28, he had a stable job. Office, laptop, instant coffee. He didn't hate it, but he didn't love it either. It didn't hurt, but it didn't help him grow either. He tolerated it because it felt safe. He lived in a small rented apartment, went out rarely, didn't travel, didn't take chances, didn't try anything he couldn't control. And whenever something made him uncomfortable, he would tell himself, "It's fine. Everything is fine. I don't need more." But every night, when he turned off the light and lay in bed, one thought always crept in, quiet but sharp. Is this it? Is this what life is supposed to feel like? And then, silently, he turned to face the wall, closed his eyes, and tried not to think anymore. He had never loved deeply. He had relationships, yes, but never gave all of himself. There was always a part of him locked away, just in case they left, in case it hurt, in case it failed. And of course, that's not how love works. That's not how life works. He was afraid to love and lose, afraid to trust and be let down, afraid to try and fail, afraid to change and regret it, afraid to be seen and rejected. He lived from fear but called it being responsible. He told himself, "I don't want to make impulsive mistakes." But deep down, he was more afraid of the pain of failing than of the emptiness of never trying. One day, a friend called him. "Hey, I'm traveling across South America for 3 months. You coming with me?" He smiled, his chest filled with something strange, excitement and fear. He replied the way he always did. "Sounds amazing, but it's not the right time. Work's a bit crazy." A perfect excuse, polite, logical, but completely empty. He hung up, looked at the ceiling, the clock, his cold coffee, and again that voice inside. "Oh, what am I doing with my life?" A month later, everything collapsed. He got to work. His boss called him in. There was a white envelope waiting. "Thank you for your service. The company is downsizing." Just like that, his entire sense of control gone in 5 minutes. No drama, no warning, no choice. He walked out calmly, said, "I'm okay, thanks." But he wasn't. He got home, sat on the couch, and stayed there. No TV, no phone, no music, just him and the silence. He had done everything right, never took risks, never made trouble, never stepped out of line, and still, he lost it all. So what was all that fear for? That's when something broke. Not because of the job, not because of the money, but because the illusion was gone. Fear had never protected him. It only kept him still. He remembered all the times he said no, to moving to another city, to studying what he really loved, to loving with all his heart, to writing, to singing, to exploring. He realized he hadn't just lost a job. He had lost years, and what was worse, he had never even lived them. That night he opened a notebook, and for the first time in years he wrote something real. "If I'm going to lose anyway, I'd rather lose while trying." That was the moment everything started to change. He didn't change overnight. There was no dramatic movie scene, no music in the background, no applause, just silence and a quiet decision. I'm tired of being afraid. The next morning, he got up at 10 a.m. No rush, no work, just the strange weight of freedom and the uncomfortable realization that he had no idea who he was anymore. He walked to a nearby park, sat on a bench, watched people pass by, laughing, running, yelling, kissing, living. And for the first time, he didn't just watch them, he envied them. They looked alive. He felt empty, like a shadow of himself, like someone who had spent years avoiding pain, and in the process had also avoided joy. Over the next few days, he started writing. Not stories, just thoughts, memories, questions, moments he had buried so deeply he almost forgot they existed. He wrote about the girl he didn't call back, about the job he turned down because it felt too uncertain, about the friend he slowly stopped seeing because they reminded him of who he wanted to be. Each page hurt, but it was a good pain, the kind that comes when something inside you wakes up after a long, long sleep. One night after hours of writing, he found a photo of himself, age 17, eyes full of dreams. That version of him wanted to travel, to start his own business, to fall in love so deeply it scared him, and he had done none of it. He stared at the photo and whispered, "I'm sorry," not because he failed, but because he never tried. He realized something important. You don't become brave by waiting for the fear to go away. You become brave by moving through the fear, by showing up despite it, by choosing growth, not safety. So he made a list, not a bucket list, a fear list. Things he had avoided for years. Speak in public, travel alone, say I love you first, tell his parents he didn't want to keep living a life that wasn't his, start his own project, try and be okay if it didn't work. And next to each one, he didn't write a deadline, just one promise. I will no longer let fear decide for me. The first thing he did, he booked a one-way ticket to Peru. He had never traveled alone. He didn't know anyone there. He was terrified. But this time, he said yes. He didn't plan every detail, didn't read every review, didn't wait until he felt ready. He just packed a small bag and went. At the airport, his hands were sweating, his heart racing. He almost turned around at the last minute. But then, he looked around and saw something strange. Everyone else was afraid too. Some had tears in their eyes. Some clutched their passports like life vests. Some looked lost. And suddenly he realized, fear isn't a signal to stop. It's a sign that you're doing something that matters. He smiled, boarded the plane, and for the first time in years, he wasn't running away from fear. He was walking straight through it. That trip changed him, not because he climbed a mountain or posted perfect pictures, but because he sat with himself, faced the voice in his head, and said, I hear you, but I'm still going. He got lost, missed buses, spoke broken Spanish, trusted strangers, cried in hostels, laughed at 2 a.m. with people he would never see again, wrote pages and pages in his notebook, and slowly his fear stopped feeling like a prison and started to feel like fuel. When he got back home, he wasn't fixed, but he was different. He walked taller, spoke slower, smiled more, because now he knew something deep and permanent. Losing everything had set him free, and the life he was building now was finally his. I stood there in front of the mirror staring into my own eyes, noticing something I hadn't seen before. Not fear, not shame, but exhaustion. I was tired, tired of being afraid, tired of hiding, tired of letting life pass me by. That morning, I didn't fix my hair. I didn't pretend. I didn't rehearse any lines. I simply put on my shoes and walked out of the apartment. The cold wind hit my face like reality slapping me awake, and I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I walked without a destination, just moving forward, one street, one step, one breath at a time. I passed a park I used to love as a child. I stopped. I watched the kids laugh, play, fall, get up, laugh again. No fear in their faces, no hesitation in their movements. Just life, raw and beautiful. I sat on a bench and I cried. Not the quiet kind of cry, the loud, painful, ugly kind. The one you hold in for too long, the one that tastes like years of regret. And yet, it felt like healing. A stranger passed me and asked, "Are you okay?" I smiled for real this time and said, "No, but I will be." That afternoon, I walked into a community center. There was a sign, "Support Group 6 p.m." I had nothing to lose. I entered. 10 people sat in a circle. No one wore masks. No one pretended. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. The first week, I didn't say a word. The second week, I whispered, "I'm Daniel, and I don't know who I am anymore." No one laughed. No one judged. A woman said, "That's okay. You showed up. That's more than most people ever do." That night, I slept like a child. Over the next few weeks, something strange happened. I started smiling more. I looked people in the eyes again. I said yes to invitations, even when my anxiety screamed no. I wasn't fearless, but I was done running. I got a job. It wasn't my dream, but it was honest work. I helped people again. I remembered what it felt like to be useful. I called my sister. She answered. We didn't talk about the past. We talked about today and tomorrow. I wasn't the same man who had once let life crush him. I was different, not because the pain had disappeared, but because I finally chose to live anyway. Now I look at that mirror again. Same face, different eyes, not fearless, but not broken either. People ask me how I changed. I tell them I lost everything, and that's how I found myself. It's not about winning. It's not about never falling. It's about standing up, even when you're scared, even when your hands shake, even when your voice cracks. You just stand and you say, "This is me. This is my life, and I will not waste it anymore." I used to fear everything, but now I fear regret more than I fear failure. I fear silence more than I fear rejection, and I fear not living more than I fear dying. So no, I'm not fearless. I'm just finally free.